All right, let's talk about the secret backbone of pretty much every successful modern company, IT governance. It's this invisible system that keeps a company's technology from just spiraling into total chaos. Instead, it turns it into a seriously powerful tool. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint that keeps our digital world from completely falling apart. So think about this for a second. You see these headlines all the time, right? A huge multi-million-dollar project goes way over budget and then just gets scrapped. A critical service goes down for hours, costing a fortune. Or a company loses all of its customers' trust after a massive hack. What's the one thing that connects all of these disasters? Well, the answer is that these are not just isolated accidents. They're all symptoms of a much deeper problem, something we can call digital chaos. It's what happens when technology is managed without any real plan, without a strategy. And it leads to all sorts of bad stuff. Wasted money, huge security holes, and this constant frustrating feeling that the tech just isn't helping the business get where it needs to go. So how in the world do you fight this chaos? The answer is IT governance. And to really get our heads around it, I want you to think of it like this. It's the Urban Planning Commission for an organization's entire digital world. It is the master blueprint for building a thriving, functional, and secure digital city. Now, this definition might sound a little simple, but it gets right to the most critical idea, alignment. At its very core, IT governance is all about making sure every single piece of technology, every project, every dollar spent on IT is directly pushing the company's main goals forward, instead of, accidentally working against them. And this isn't just about making up rules for the sake of having rules. It's about asking 4 really key questions. 1, are we building the right things? 2, are we building them in a smart, efficient way? 3, are we protecting them from potential disasters? And finally, is all of this actually making the business stronger? When the answer to all 4 of those is a solid yes, you're not just managing IT, you're creating real, tangible business value. Okay, so if IT governance is the overall city plan, who's actually running the planning department? Well, that brings us to the core engine of governance, a concept known as GRC. GRC stands for Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And here's the most important part. These are not 3 separate things working in their own little bubbles. No way. They are 3 deeply connected pillars that have to work together to give that strategic oversight and make sure the whole organization is on the right track. So let's go back to our city analogy. Governance, that's like the city council. It sets the high-level rules and the overall vision for the city. Risk management, that's your disaster preparedness agency. They're constantly on the lookout for threats like cyber attacks or system failures. And compliance? Well, they're the building inspectors, making sure everyone is actually following the safety codes and the blueprints. But look, a city plan is pretty useless if it's just a piece of paper, right? You need actual laws and you need law enforcement. And in IT governance, it is exactly the same. We need a rule book and we need the key players who make sure those rules get followed. This is how big ideas become real, concrete actions. It all starts with a policy. That's a high-level statement, like a city charter that says all buildings in our city must be safe. That big idea is then translated into standards. These are the mandatory building codes, like all buildings must use steel-reinforced concrete. Then you get even more specific, with procedures, the super detailed construction manuals showing exactly how to mix and pour that concrete. And finally, you have guidelines, which are like architectural suggestions, not required, but definitely a really good idea. So with all this valuable data and all this important digital infrastructure, you've got to ask, who's ultimately in charge of protecting this whole digital city? Who's the sheriff? That crucial role belongs to the Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO. Just think of them as the Commissioner of Public Safety for the entire organization's data and systems. They're tasked with one thing, protecting the company's most valuable digital assets. Their job is huge and absolutely critical. A CISO creates the overall security plan, they manage all those risks we talked about, they make sure everyone is in compliance, and, when the worst happens, they are the ones leading the charge for the incident response team. They are literally standing on the front line between order and digital chaos. Okay, so we've got our plan, we've got our laws, we've got our Commissioner of Public Safety, but how do we know if our governance is actually working? Is the city a good place to live? Well, we've got to measure what matters.
It's a classic management principle, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. To know if your governance is actually effective, you have to track it with real data. So organizations rely on key metrics to keep an eye on IT performance, manage risk, and make sure they're in compliance.
For example, it turns out about 70% of organizations are now using what are called key risk indicators, or KRIs. These are really cool. They're forward-looking metrics. Think of them like an early warning system designed to spot trouble on the horizon before it becomes a real problem. And then, 85% use key performance indicators, or KPIs. Now, these are different. They measure your current performance against your goals. They're like the report card that tells you how well your organization is functioning right this minute. This all leads to one final, really crucial distinction: quality assurance versus quality control. QA is proactive. It's like designing a building from the very start to be able to withstand an earthquake. QC, on the other hand, is reactive. It's inspecting that same building for cracks after it's already been built. And look, you absolutely need both. But a really mature governance strategy puts a huge focus on that proactive quality assurance. So, to bring it all home, that is the incredible power of IT governance. It's the discipline that takes what could be a messy, chaotic, unplanned settlement and transforms it into a well-planned, resilient, and thriving digital city that creates real, honest-to-goodness value. And hey, if you doubt for a second how important this stuff is, consider this. IT governance makes up a full 18% of the CISA exam. That's one of the absolute top certifications in the entire industry. This is a critical professional skill. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. The apps you use, the websites you visit, the systems at your own job, are they built on a strategic blueprint? Or are they just a little bit of chaos? Thanks for watching.